is our expert on this today, just trying to go through and just talk to us about what it looks like to go through these seasons of life with our children.
And hopefully we get some kind of blueprint this time.
Did you ever draw up that blueprint? We need to work on that.
Yeah, I did, but it was with crayons and everything, so it didn't really look very professional.
We'll get a picture for you guys so you can see. Okay, so Maria, we've done a lot of talking about our kids are going to go through seasons, and that means as a parent we're going to go through those seasons too. And I know the last time we talked, you said that especially with the first child, like you're throwing stuff at the wall pretty much to see what's going to stick, and if you've got these things that aren't healed inside of you, that's what's being transferred to your child. And we're looking at this idea of, now I'm a parent that I'm going through these different transitions with our child, and whether it's my first child or my fourth child, we talked a lot about them being individuals. So what worked with my first child might not work with my fourth child, or I've just got this one child and I'm not sure what to do. So what does that look like for a parent, like any stage of transition?
Transitions are hard.
I
think that's my go-to. It's hard.
Sorry.
All right, so we're getting a shirt that says parenting is hard.
It's just actually just have a blank and then just insert
whatever you are at that stage. No, I think with transitions, it's as the child develops, it's going to go through each developmental stage. And so there's going to be a transition with that. And not necessarily your parenting has to change, but I think we find the biggest transition whenever we go through the middle school era or the high school era or going off to college. And I think with that, we have to really, yes, it's individualized, but I think we have to maybe look at our parenting approach a little bit more.
Okay.
So going from more of, I know we talked about the nurturer, that we can control this whenever they're kids. Our job is to keep them safe. So then where do we move this boundary whenever they are on the verge of independence and adulthood? And then even changing from parenting to more of a coaching style.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I know I've said often, on the parenting journey, we can find we can find ourselves where we're at this place where I don't know what to do. And I think that applies from birth to even beyond 18. But I made mention before, when you're carrying this child, there's there is that safety net, the child is inside of me, nothing can really harm the child. And then there's this, wait a minute, what if something goes wrong inside? Now then what do I do? And now you've birthed this child and you can see the child, and it's okay, I can see what's going on. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Then you get to 18 and you've had these years of I've helped this child develop, I've watched this child change. Oh my gosh, what was safe in my home, now they're going out into the world. I don't know what to do. And so it seems like it's very similar through these stages that we sometimes find ourselves of going, I don't know what to do. What would you say to a parent that's just going, I don't know what to do, whether it's from birth, whether it's 18, whether it's somewhere in the middle where one day that child wanted to be around me every moment of the day. I was the coolest thing in the world, and all of a sudden they're not saying bye when they get out of the car. They won't give me, a cheek kiss in public, or don't come to my classroom this week, or don't come eat lunch with me. What does that look like for parents?
I think the biggest thing we forget when we're parents is how it was when we were that child. So we probably did that to our own parents. And we don't realize. My parents used to say, just wait till you're a parent. Just wait till you're a parent. And that is so true. I was like, what do you mean just wait till I'm a parent? And so now it's oh, I probably did hurt their feelings a lot. And so we have to kind of remember that it's normal. Their brain does not fully develop until they're 25. And so they're still figuring out this big world, regardless of where they are in the stage. And sometimes they are going to push back on us, and it's not personal. We cannot take it personal. It's really just, okay, how are we going to respond to that? Because we are still in control of that nurture. So if we respond in a way that's going to create chaos or create an argument or things like that, then it's going to affect how they, come back to us or how they respond to us. And ultimately could lead to, just emotional, arguments. So I think it goes back to control what we can.
Yeah.
Let go of what we can't.
Right.
Yeah.
And understand that my parenting journey is going to look completely different than my neighbor's parenting journey.
Right.
Or my parents' parenting journey with me.
Right.
Yeah.
And so just letting go of this expectation that society puts on us as to getting it right or getting it perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is stay off Instagram.
Stay off of it. Yeah.
Pretty much stay off Instagram. You'll be fine. You're doing all right.
Yes.
All right, so that's a side topic, but what is posted on Instagram when you know the behind the scenes stories, it doesn't look like reality. I actually had a conversation with a friend, and the pictures looked like, man, y'all are having the greatest time, and then I learned what happened that day, and it was like, oh, that's not what the pictures told. So I get that. But you said something I just want to hit on, because I'm trying to like finalize this debate. I think it might have been our first episode where we talked about where you said like our parenting journey is not going to look the same, but we were talking about how you do the rhythm for your family and the markers, like the developmental markers of how it comes up with your child. And I pushed back on the idea that 18 is an adult. Now, as an expert, you just told me the same thing that I said in episode 1 is our brains aren't fully developed until we're 25.
Yeah.
So why is it? So I want to talk about that. At 18, there is this kind of widely accepted idea as adulthood, almost like we accept Santa Claus up to a certain age. Like, but really what happens between 18 and 25? Like, what does that parenting journey look like? Because there's a lot of pressure from the world saying, well, they're an adult. I mean, they can go do whatever they want to do, and now they're responsible if they get in prison. But also carry them on your insurance and pay for their college. So talk to me about that. Like, that's like...
That is a loaded question.
Yeah.
That can go so many ways.
There's a whole lot there.
There is. That can go so many ways. But I think that's where, as a our parenting never stops.
Okay.
Like, we're going to parent until we're not here. You know, we're going to continue to parent. But I think at 18, you know, it's the societal pressure that is put onto them that they want to be independent, that they're an adult. They can go to big boy, big girl jail now, right?
Yeah.
And so, and there's really nothing we can do about it other than fund it.
They can't rent a car.
They can't rent a car or a hotel or, you know, any of the other stuff.
Right.
And so I think it's how we have to kind of change the way that we parent in that stage, and maybe probably like even at the high school age, more of a coaching.
Yeah.
So if you look at it like a coach, you know, of a team.
Yeah.
Ultimately, our end goal is still the same. Our end goal parenting is for them to be productive citizens, you know, and to live up to their full potential and things like that. And so it's really just changing to where, okay, we can't control anything here, but we can, you know, still show up. We can cheer you on. We can push you to be the best that you can be.
Right.
And so just changing how we kind of view parenting at that stage.
So if a child needs extra support, say from that 18 to 25 year range, like, does that mean as a parent, like, we failed because, like, you know, our neighbor's child is at an Ivy League school and succeeding, but yet our child's needing to take it a little bit slower and I mean, what does that look like? Is it like, oh, you failed, sorry, you didn't make your marker?
I don't think there's really failing. As long as we show up and try our best and are nurturing to the best of our ability, I don't think that we're failing anything. And that again goes back to those should statements of we're putting society's expectations onto our kids. So ultimately we're labeling our kid as to what they should or should not be.
Okay, I like that.
And I think in a lot of society, we use the word society a lot, but I think that does have a lot to do with it, because if you look at societies hundreds of years ago, it was way different.
Absolutely.
Like, you became a man when you were like 13. You had to go up to a mountain, kill a bear, come back to be a man, and then all of a sudden you were an adult and you're accepted by.
So do we have this documented somewhere? Like, maybe we need to start doing this. I think we should have another kid and see if we can do that with
That's
each other.
right. Have them go up to a mountain and kill a bear.
So can you do that with your bare hands?
That's right.
And then you can be a man.
Kill a bear with your bare hands.
Or a woman, depending. So, but yeah, I agree with that. And I think that is, I know we say often we're not gods or gurus, but that was kind of our take in our first episode, is what society says doesn't have to dictate what happens in your home. But there is also these stages of development that, I mean, we see, and I think sometimes they can be good markers for us, especially you know, in the younger ages, is my child developing on a scale that is healthy? So like, are there delayed speech or speech or walking or whatever? Like, sometimes this developmental scale can help us know if we need to like kind of step in and fix something.
And I think though too, right now every parent, regardless of where you are on the parenting journey, is in a transition stage because we had 2 to 3 years of COVID.
Yeah, 100%.
So our normal, I hate normal, but our typical 14-year-olds are not behaving like our 14, if we have older kids, they're not right at the same 14-year-old stage. We're seeing this in schools, we're seeing this across mental health communities, we're seeing this everywhere, that, you know, our 14-year-olds are really at like, you know, a 10-year-old stage.
Right.
So I think at some point we may have to go back and review these developmental milestones and things like that, especially as it comes to, you know, the mental health aspect or the other topics that are not like cutting teeth or, you know, things like that.
Yeah. So there is a developmental milestone that comes from physical development, but also emotional development. So, and those physical development things are things that we kind of maybe pay a little more attention to in case there is something that our child's missed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Where the emotional is.
Right. And then you have, you know, I see it a lot, is that parents are coming in, is like, my child's acting out, or my child's not, you know, acting like a 9-year-old or things like that. And I really have to very lovingly and kindly explain, you know, for 2.5 years, they were in the home. It was safe, you know, they were safe in the home. And then all of a sudden now we're like forcing them into situations that we expect them to just go back to normal, and they really don't know what that looks like. So we are seeing a lot of separation anxiety. We're seeing a lot of social anxiety. We're seeing a lot of depression and things like that. And then also, we're also like feeling like we are failing as a parent.
That's really good. So that kind of goes back to the nature versus nurture conversation, where we've got a generation that's experienced a huge trauma at one time. And so, but it still goes to where one could have flourished during that time because maybe the outside influences of school or whatever was a lot of stress. They were able to come home and get some things they needed and maybe make a new path. But then you have a large population who now everything was scary for a couple years, and it's easy to isolate once you've been isolated. And then now, like, how do we do this? So you're saying that could have delayed some of the emotional development in our children, and we shut down everything, and then, okay, let's get back life to normal, and expected things
to go back to normal quickly.
So that, I mean, that speaks back to that individualization too. Like, even if there wasn't the trauma of COVID that everybody experienced together, our child as individuals, our children as individuals can experience that, and that's where we can see some of those delays. And again, we have to work with them as an individual. We don't have a blueprint for every single person.
And it goes back to, you know, us feeling like we're an imposter because we don't know what to do. And then also, like, our older kids, okay, whenever they were 18, they were ready for this. And now I have an 18-year-old who really isn't behaving the way, you know, and we see this in driving too. A lot of kids are not driving at 15, 16 anymore because they're not ready, because we have that lag. And so we are putting this, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. We're not taking into consideration that, you know, everyone has kind of been lost in this transition.
So would you say look at it more as like guidelines as opposed to like hard, fast rules of when you're 18? I mean, that's maybe a good barometer as to start looking at those things as like 18, you're done out of the house.
I think it needs to go to 25.
I mean, I agree with that. I don't think you have the same level of control between 18 and 25 as you did 8 and 10. Like I do believe there is this step, but I've seen the pressure. Like, we've worked with teens, we've worked with children, we have our own children. I've seen the pressure that these kids feel as society tells them they should be doing things. Like, we have our own children that are looking at, what does it look like to get my education at a secondary level, but I don't know that I want to do it the way it's been built up to do it. Do I want to go to university? Do I want to be online and I want to travel? Is a technical school good? Is the workplace good? And it's a lot of pressure. And I think for us as parents, it becomes pressure too, because we've been so programmed by society that it's this. I mean, I know, like, I've heard so many times, okay, 18, you're an adult. All right, just wait till you're 18. Yeah. You don't want to do it like that, then move out, blah, blah, blah. But then we're at the culmination of, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Like, so.
Yeah, I mean, because I think too, since whenever this person just decided 18 was the magical number, whoever this guy was up in some office somewhere, I think, at some point society has changed and kids are growing up differently. There are things that, they're exposed to that are probably stunning their growth in some way, shape, or form, like social media, all that stuff is probably doing some stunting, of their growth, because before all that, before you had a lot of media, before you had a lot of entertainment, and I think back to, maybe even the 20s or the 30s or whatever, when,
when you were alive.
Well, when I was alive. You probably had a lot more time where they were just out. They had a lot more community they were around, because it was just, hey, you find a neighborhood group and you played with them and you did that. You were always taking care of something because there was a farm or something like that to take care of and all that. So, a lot more different things that help develop your adulting skills, in air quotes. Yeah. Whereas I think in some instances society has changed, so we need to write some letters to this guy and say, hey, maybe you need to change that adult number.
You're gonna look him up.
Yeah.
But I think Steve Internet.
So I think that, okay, so we've talked about this idea of like 18 to 25. I think that is what we're all, like, as parents, that's the marker, right? It's like 18. Like, if we can get them to 18, but like you said, parenting doesn't stop. So let's just back up from that, because some of our audience, they may be dealing with 2 and 3 year olds, right? So I know when our children were younger, our children are 51 weeks apart. So they were hitting the developmental stages one after the other. And there was transition that you had to get used to. I remember thinking, like, between like 8, I think it was the age of 8 and 10. 8 was the alien age, is what I called it. It was like my child completely changed into someone else. How do we know when that's normal or when we need to actually step in and do something? Because I know you talked about, like, the not internalizing the rejection, because these things are normal patterns, but what are these ideas of something I might need to look at, that something deeper is going on, that it's more than just normal transition?
Well, I think you are the expert at your child.
Okay.
Right? And so really just getting in and asking the tough questions. A lot of times we shy away from those questions. And really, like, if their entire demeanor is shifting to where it's affecting things that they normally would love. So say if we have someone who loves soccer, but now all of a sudden there's no interest in that. Or if they, were a really great student and now all of a sudden, like, they're struggling, they're hating school, things like that. I think those are times whenever we need to probably look a little bit further. Is there a lagging skill? Is there something that they're not feeling competent in or on? And that could show us, there could be some developmental issues, or there could just be some mental health issues, or it could just be a little bit of, it's the age.
Right.
But I do think that there are times, and there are times that we do, and you'll know, I feel like you do know that something's off. Something's not right. And that's, I think, was whenever the imposter syndrome actually, like, flares up and you're like,
that's good.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm overthinking this. But the truth of the matter is, like, you carried your child, you nurtured your child. You are with your child the majority of the time. And even leaning on your support system. So where are the school teachers seeing that things are different? And those may be conversations that we need to have.
Okay. So it's not just like this, oh man, yesterday you weren't so moody and today you're very moody. It's a very drastic change that maybe even continues. That it's not something that you get out of really quickly. It's not a 2-week thing and then goes back to normal, or it's not now we're starting to transition, mom and dad are getting on board, or whoever the support system and whoever the guardians are, like, we're getting on board of, okay, this is a new season of life. Once we've discovered that, now things have kind of evened out. You're talking about drastic changes. It's always rocky. It's always wavy. and also bringing in your community to say, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Like asking those kind of questions.
Yes.
So that's just that difference between there may need to be some kind of intervention versus this is just normal development of life.
Yeah.
And understanding that as our kids go through different stages, you know, it is going to be tough. Like, you know, because their brain is developing, you know, emotions and hormones and all those things. It does kind of create a little bit of tension, a little bit of rockiness. And sometimes, you know, kids may just need to talk to someone that's not their parent.
Right.
But then if it is something drastic, if it is something that, even if it is like for a few weeks and you're not seeing it again and then it's flaring back up, you know, those are all signs that, hey, maybe we just need to look deeper. Hopefully it's nothing, but you know, it could be. So.
Okay. And that's just a method of like keeping your child safe if there's something going on there. So we know that our children are going to go through these developmental stages. Yeah. And we know that they can definitely catch us off guard as a parent. So like you have all your children, did they all develop at the same rate?
No.
Okay, so what you're telling me is you can't really be prepared.
Can't be prepared.
You can't go, well, my first one, I mean, she was walking at 9 months, and then I've got, you know, a fourth one that, you know, crawled into his, you can't, there is no.
Yeah.
There goes my chance
there's
for a
no
blueprint.
blueprint.
Yeah, there's no blueprint. Okay, so what you're telling me is even if you've parented one through the stages, the second one can throw you for a loop.
Absolutely.
Pretty much. Okay, so what I want to ask then, we know that our children are going to go through developmental stages. How do you handle that as a parent? Because it is going to rise up maybe some insecurities, that imposter syndrome. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. Even though I've had 3 other children, this is completely different. What support do we give to a parent they're pretty much developing with their child because there's something new coming in front of them?
Yeah. Get off the internet. There you go.
Get off the internet.
You start figuring yourself.
That's another t-shirt right there.
It is. We're just going to be in the t-shirt business. No, I think it's just really take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. You know, it is going to look different, you know, and as we grow, we're maturing. And so as they grow, they're maturing. Yeah. And it's really just a learning experience together. Do your best, you know, make sure that, you know, they're safe and that they know, I think especially as they grow older and even starting at a very young age, they can come to you. Yeah. You know, whenever things do kind of, you know, feel different, feel off, things like that. But as a parent, just know that, you know, buckle up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be a rocky road.
It's going to be a ride, but it's worth it in the end.
Try to enjoy it as much as you can.
Yeah.
We just recently went to a movie in 4DX. Have you ever done that before? So basically it's like a Universal ride, and you're in a theater, but you're in seats that move, and you know, it's kind of getting all the action. And so when you said buckle up, we thought these seats needed to give us seat belts. When we were watching this movie, we watched an action-packed movie, and so we were hitting bumps and we were getting thrown all the way. And when you said that, I'm thinking that's like parenting. Like you were getting jostled and jolted and flung around. And so really it is that, you know, buckle up, but it also causes us to like kind of dig down and do the deep work, knowing like if you're rooted in something, then maybe you're not going to be tossed about as much. And I think that is finding our root system. Like we say a lot, like ours is our faith. And then I also believe you have to have a strong community.
You do.
Because even with those two things, you can still feel like, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm losing it, but there is something that's kind of keeping you grounded. And so I think that's really important for parents, is that you have that support system. You have somewhere that you're grounded. That is not Google and trying to see how the other parents did it.
Right.
Not saying that, like, if you are secure in yourself and you want to like just get some tips or like, how is this going? I think you can reach out for questions, but I think you have to do that in a safe space too, where you not just see the final picture, you know, not that real, that everything is perfect, but you really have some places you can dig in and ask questions and be vulnerable with people. So I think that's one of the bigger things of getting through the transition stages or developmental stages of your child while you're parenting.
And that analogy of the 4DX movie or the motion ride is a great analogy for parenting. Because sometimes while we're watching the movie and those bumps came, you're like laughing because you're like, oh, this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes it feels very uncomfortable because it just gets a whole lot of bump and you're like, oh gosh, when is this going to stop? You know?
Okay, so I think that we need to do kind of a giveaway. So I'm going to put some details to this video about a giveaway, and we're going to do 2 tickets for 4DX for some parents, so you can experience what we're talking about, and then you can make your own analogies to that with
there you go,
with parenting. Because it really, when you said buckle up, I'm like, yeah, I needed to buckle up the other night, and that is kind of how. That's how parenting has been. Right.
And then sometimes there was fog coming at you. Sometimes there was water. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. You didn't know why you're moving. Like, shouldn't be moving right now. Why aren't we moving? And I think that's what transition in parenting feels like. Why am I moving? Yeah. We weren't supposed to be moving. We were staying put for a while. I felt like that as our kids
some of the transitions are like, oh, this is fun. I like this transition. And some of the transitions are like, what?
I'm so nauseated right now. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
So,
in a nutshell,
pretty much, there's not going to be a lot of consistency. There's not one way of doing it, but there are some methods of having community.
Yeah.
Being rooted in something, asking questions, staying in community with your child, making sure that that's open dialogue. And then knowing that you need to expect the unexpected at all times.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard. So I think we would love to hear from the audience about like kind of some transition stages that you have faced with your children. If you have an 8-year-old or somewhere in that proximity, let me know if you feel like it's called the Alien 8, because I remember that very clearly. Like, I thought aliens had taken my children, and I didn't know when they were going to bring them back and what shape they were going to be in. So let me know. And then terrible twos. I feel like twos gets a really bad rap because I didn't experience terrible twos. It was terrible threes.
Yeah, the teenagers.
Yeah, it was like so like, I thought when we made it through 2, I was like, oh, these kids are going to be, it's going to be great. And then all of a sudden they're turning 3 and I'm like, whoa. What happened?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that was not very fun.
3 is the new 2.
3 is the new 2.
Yeah.
Wasn't fun in our family. So let us know like what's going on. Maybe we can meme some of the things. We can laugh about it together. Any final thoughts about this whole developmental stage, transition, learning? So it's going to happen.
Yep.
Get a good community.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to lean in for support. And don't take it personally unless it's personal.
Yep. It's going to be hard. Buckle up.
Buckle up. And look in wherever you're watching this podcast or on our social media pages. When this releases, we will have a giveaway for 2 4DX tickets to a theater near you.
Yep. That'll be your choice.
All right. Awesome.
Cool. Cue the theme music.
2 parents and a microphone.